Hi everyone and welcome to my tackle room. I've been getting a lot of questions from you on the computer, and a question I've been getting asked quite a lot recently is to do with a straight leg with bread. So I thought I'd make some little video clips, talk you through all the little bits and pieces that I use, why I use them, and hopefully give you a few tips as I'm going along to help you catch a few more. So starting off with the line, I use £5 match winner, which is 0.18, and I'm going to tie him 12 inch. So I want a little bit more than that to start with. Snip him off. And then I get my little speed stop and pop him on the line, and then just tie him in a little overhand knot. And then I get my little needle that it comes with and just put it in that loop so I can butt it up right next to my little stop. Put him tight, trim the tag end off. And then onto the hook. I only use one size and type of hook for this, which is a 14 QM1. It's definitely the best hook I've found for bread. So it through the back of the hook as normal. And then the next thing is the hair length. It's really important when you're fishing with bread. So one thing I use is this little solar hair gauge. It's from the cart part of your local tackle shop. It's just got some little pins where you can put your loop over, and then a little grooved out bit where you can butt your hook up to, so that way you know that you're tying the right hair length every time. Onto hair length, I only use two. I use a 10mm one for 2 or 3 bits of bread when I'm fishing for F1s and little carp, and then a 12mm one where I can put 3 or 4 bits of bread on it when I'm fishing for bigger carp. So I'm going to tie a 10mm one, so I just offer it up to that stop, put my hook in the grooved out bit, so that's 10mm. And then onto whipping your hook, you've got your shank of your hook, and then the way the eye's formed, you've always got a cut bit. So I always whip from the continuous bit rather than the cut bit, because it'll make your knot weaker. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I always like to do like 15 or 16 turns down the shank of the hook, because it helps keep your hair straight. I know a lot of people like using hook silicone, but that ain't for me. I feel like I can do the same thing with more whippings. So now I've tied my hook. I know a lot of the questions that I get from club anglers, and I know from past experiences on the bank, a few of them struggle to get their hook lengths under the right tension. So I've got my little hook box here from Guru. I like these ones because they've got the rubber seal which stops water getting in. I think that's brilliant. Next thing, to try and tie it when your hook board's like, you need some weight on it. So let's pop them back down there. There's ones I tied earlier. I stole these off my mum's weighing scales, and they're brilliant for this, so shit, never getting them back. So I get my hook, place it over the pin furthest away because I want them 12 inches long, and then loop it round the other end. Grab them 2 bits together and release your hook. So now that's 12 inches long. So I just turn it around in my fingers. I know we've used these like in match angling for a long time, but I know some people still don't use a loop tire. The ones that I recommend are the Sensors ones. They definitely tie the best knot. And if you've never used one, I'll show you how to use one now. So where I've released it, I've obviously pinched the 2 bits of line together, and you wanna pull the line together so they're 2 bits level, not twisted. So you just pull it together so they're nice and parallel together, and then twist it so you form another loop, and then pinch it. So you've got a loop that you just formed and the loop off your pin, and you get your loop tie, and basically you've got an outside and an inside. So to start off with, you put the loop around the outside and then go once, twice, and then with the other loop put that in the middle and then wet it, and when you pull it tight, pull both bits of line together, and that way the length of it will never change. So now I can release the knot, and you end up with a lovely little formed figure of 8 knot. And what I will say is I always pull it really tight at home, because if the knot's tied wrong and you pull it tight, it'll snap. no matter what line you're using. And it's better off snapping here, where you can just retie it again, than casting out a 40 hook length. Get a bite only for it to snap. So I just trim the tag end off, so I've got like 1 or 2 mil. One thing I will talk about now is through my own fishing that I've learned that you definitely get more bites when you have some shot on the line. So this is something that I would do on the bank, but for obviously showing you, I'll explain it now. So I need it to be tight to put my shots on. Put it back in my loop tyre. The shots I use are number 8 stops. They're definitely the best for this. So I just get 2 out. And the first one, I want it 2 inch from the hook. And nip him on. And then the second one, halfway between your hook and your loop. So about 6 inches. And that's it tied there. If I put it on the table, should be able to see 1 2 inches and 1 sort of halfway in between your hook length. So if I move all these bits out of the way, and then I'll talk you through, oh excuse me, why I'll put them on and why the hook length's 12 inches. When I fish with bread, it's at Cornwall because the venues where I fish regularly don't allow it. So the reason they're 12 inches long is because I'm always going to be casting to a far bank, be it an island or the actual bank, and the place I'll be looking to cast my lead with my bread is exactly the same place that you'd be looking to fish in the middle of summer. So at the start of before the start of the match, obviously you put your lead on. One thing I will say is I always like to use quite a heavy lead, so a minimum of 2/3 of an ounce, but really an ounce, because you want the weight to be able to really cast it in them little holes. Now the reason it's 12 inches long is because if it were any longer than that, I want to cast my lead, like I said, right in that little hole. So if it was any longer, you'd be fishing in the far bank all day. So that's the reason that they're 12 inches long. With the shot, I think the reason it works is because one, when you cast out, and obviously you're slowing your lead down and then it stops when it hits the clip, the lead stops, I think the hook length, you know, with the weight on it as well, flies past the lead, and then as the lead sinks, the hook bait is always as far away from your main line as you can get it, so as tight to the bank as possible. And as it lies out, one, it's good because it's away from your main line, and two, I think in the winter, you know, the fish are so cold, when they do eat something, they're not swimming off at 100 mile an hour like they would do in the summer. So the shot close to the hook just helps, I think, pull the hook in place, just to prick it, and obviously that's when it's off, when it's felt the hook and been dragged in. The next thing that is really important, and I only just found out, is when you normally fish with a straight lead, when you're fishing with meat or corn or pellets, 1 or 2 hook lengths is more than good enough, because if you cast out and you have a miscast, not a problem, you just wind it in again, cast it back out again, the bait's going to be fine. But with bread, because the bait's so soft, if you do have a miscast, and trust me, it happens to everyone, if anyone says they don't, they're a liar. And it is so important with bread, and I can't stress the importance of this, is you want sort of at least 6 hook lengths baited up at the start, because if you don't cast it, if you cast out and it hits the clip and you put the rod down and you think that is bang on, I'm going to get a bite there, that is the only place to leave it. If it lands this far short, you have to wind it in, because if you don't, you might as well be fishing in your bath, because that's how many bites you're going to get. None. You ain't going to get a bite. So you need more hook lengths, because when you do have miscasts, and we all do them, you need to wind it in, obviously unclip that hook length, put it down and cast back out again. Now if you get a strong side wind, which is what I was faced with when I was in Cornwall, it's very difficult to be able to, especially with little short chucks, to get all of the timing right to make sure it's landed in that little tight spot. So if you have 2 miscasts, all of a sudden you've only got 4 baited hook lengths. And the nature of bread is it's very instant as well. So you have, say, 2 hook lengths and the one you're fishing with. So you cast that out, put the rod down, and then by the time you've punched your bread out, and it does take a bit of time to punch it out, get your needle, put it on, and the other thing as well is, like, you're not sat at home doing it. It's absolutely freezing out there, so you're shaking as well trying to get it on. And you're halfway through doing that one, you put that down, you look down and the rod's like proper pulling off, so you wind him in, and you're still trying to bait that one up, so you unclip that hook length and you've only got 3 more, so you have another cast. If you have a miscast, all of a sudden you've got 2, and you can see how it escalates from having loads of hook lengths to none. And you will get good spells and quiet spells, so it's so important to make the most of them when they're there. And one other little tip that I will give you, especially when you're fishing to far banks, just like you would do with a pole, you'd start sort of towards the angler and work towards the space, because normally 2 pegs miss a peg or every other peg. So look to start closest to the angler and work your way out of your peg. So once you feel like you've caught a few from there and you don't feel like you're going to get any more bites, all they do is just move slightly further away from you. So just by unclipping, pulling you know, sort of 2 foot off and chucking it in your next little hole and just working your way up along the bank, you'll find that that's definitely the best way with bread, because it's winter, they won't come to you, you've got to cast to them. So practice your casting, make sure you get all your little bits and pieces right, and it'll definitely make a massive difference to how many you end up catching. Don't be afraid to carry on sending your questions through. I'll do my best to answer them as soon as I can. Cheers.